Tom is up to here. As it looks like Martell did win game number 1. Little camera time here for you, Tommy boy. Make the most of it. He's got a beast caller savant out there to start. And he's also got a Tajuru stalwart.
Fully kicked up.
Indeed. Here's a mind raker. Pass the turn back.
It would be great if the much maligned green, and you and I are as responsible as anyone else for its maligned status this weekend, were to go on to win the Grand Prix.
I'd love it. Showing that anything is possible.
11 green cards in Martell's deck.
Yeah. It's an island here for Martell. And there is an attack for 3. Wiznitzer will fall down to 16. Let's see what the follow-up is here for Tom. He's just going to pass the turn back for now. Again, small splashes for Martell. Base green, base white.
Grove Rumbler, Coastal Discovery, Royal Spout, his splash cards.
Oracle of Dust here from Wiznitzer. Looks like that's going to resolve. Stasis Snare will take care of the 3-5. Plains the draw here for Martell. Time for an attack. Wiznitzer will fall down to 13. And there's a forest. And Martell will just pass the turn back. Wiznitzer will draw.
Looks like a Martell sitting on a hand of Coastal Discovery, which he would like to awaken next turn, and a Plummet.
Well, there's a flyer to Plummet. He'll take it down. Wiznitzer with a small smile there. This is getting a little frustrating.
If Martell could have imagined a play for Wiznitzer to make, that would be on the short list.
Yeah.
Spend your turn casting a flyer. All right, cool, Plummet.
In for 3 yet again. No good blocks. Wiznitzer will fall down to 10. Coastal Discovery with Awaken. He's going to awaken the forest. It'll get 4 counters. Martell will draw 2 cards. Keep in mind, Beast Caller Savant cannot actually pay for a spell like that, a sorcery.
Yeah, it's only for creature spells.
Yeah. Back over to Wiznitzer. Can he get something to stick? There's a swamp. Dominator Drone will come in. Cause a little bit of life loss on Martell's side.
But that doesn't prevent Martell from having good attacks this turn. He can still keep trucking on in with his land and his stalwart. Even if he has no tricks in hand, the attack on the table is good.
Looks like Eldrazi's Sky Spawner may have been the draw.
Tom noodling this one through, but pretty firmly ahead right now.
Gotta like his positioning right now. He's got some good options in hand, too. Now, one thing about Tom, if you ever watched him play, very methodical in his ways, but when he has time to think it through, he typically finds the right decision. That's why his results are so consistent.
He's also a player, I've watched him now, played against him for a number of years. He slows down when he's ahead.
Yeah.
He likes to turn the 99% games into 100% games.
Typically, you see the reverse.
Yeah, people speed up when they're winning. Martell now in a position where he's thinking, just take a second, examine everything, don't move too fast.
Gonna attack with both creatures here. Wiznitzer looking at a double block.
He has to make a move to get the 3-4 off the table. And he likely loses to a combat trick if that's the case. But unless he's got some very good leftover in his hand, I'm not sure what the long-term plan is. I guess at this point it's more attractive to block the 4-4, but it's the same premise.
Well, there's Ulamogs. nullifier, excuse me. And that's going to be a triple block.
And this is a pretty good triple block here. Even if Martell has a trick to remove one of the blockers from combat, Martell still only kills one thing, and the 4-4 gets off the table.
So Martell wants to order the blockers here. Mindraker down. To the skies now. Yep. Like that plan there from Martell with the Ghostly Sentinel. Wiznitzer tapping mana very quickly. Appears he has something. That's a Cloud Manta.
Not bad, at least it's a card that can trade even.
Yep. And a Benthic Infiltrator.
So this is a fairly good response here from Wiznitzer. He has an answer. He can trade with the Ghostly Sentinel. The 1-4 blocks the 3-4. Martell obviously dealing with a handful of cards, so you can't feel too safe, but on the table, things look okay.
Canopy Vista. And now Eldrazi Sky Spawner. That'll bring a Scion along with it. There's our Grove Tender Druids. And Martell will just pass, so the board's getting gummed up a little bit now. The Grove Tender Druids can start to make some plant tokens if things do break Martell's way as far as allies are concerned. And Wiznitzer no good attacks, so have to pass the turn back, so we're working ourselves into a bit of a board stall here.
Yeah, and that big attack a couple turns ago, Martell took the Mindraker off the table instead of Ulamog's Nullifier, assuming that his 3-3 Ghostly Sentinel would be dominant in the air against the 2-3. But then Wiznitzer drawing the Cloud Manta means suddenly the board's sort of at parity.
So who can break that parity as Martell plays the Plains? That is the question. He's obviously casting something. The question is what? That's the Griffin. He'll gain 2 life. But again, doesn't appear to be any good attacks right now here for Tom. Dominator drone here from Wiznitzer. He'll get a drain there. Martell will fall a little bit lower and he'll untap. Wiznitzer trying to see if there's any good attacks to make right now.
Well, I think the only possible attacker is the Infiltrator.
Yep.
And I think that blocking the Stalwart on the way back is too important for Wiznitzer given the life totals. It's a nice card to have in play because if he ever draws something that requires a process, he can get it at a moment's notice. But I think in the absence of that kind of card, he's better off just hanging back on defense.
Tom doing a little bit of maneuvering here, seeing just, well, what can I attack with? Maybe try to get this game over with. 18-7, life totals are certainly in his favor.
Moving some blocks around here.
Yep. Looks like it might be a Tajiro Beastmaster. It is. Could just pass the turn back.
I believe Territorial Baloth, actually, the card. But that's still great. I mean, Martell gets to play a land and attack with a 6-6. Wiznitzer probably has to double block, start moving it off the table. And if Wiznitzer starts losing his forces, you know, he's barely, as it stands, making the board such that Martell can't alpha strike. If Martell is able to trade one of his creatures for 2 of Wiznitzer's, then things start breaking down for Wiznitzer very quickly.
So if Tom does have a land, the Baloth will turn into a 6-6. And perhaps a good attack to be had with multiple creatures. A lot to think through here for Martell.
On board, there's no block that Wiznitzer has against a 6-6 Territorial Baloth that doesn't involve losing 2 creatures. The most obvious block is probably just putting both the Dominator drones in front that allows you to maintain your defenses in the air. But then the board starts looking pretty bad. I mean, Martell might be able to just start going wide at that point.
Martell moving him around now.
In spots like this, when the board gets pretty gummed up, you're trying to see how your opponent can block. It's usually helpful to start looking at first, how's my opponent block if they're only looking to preserve their life total? What's their best set of blocks? Then say, what's their best set of blocks if they're looking to make inroads on my board? They're actually looking to wear down some of my stuff. If you look at those two extreme ends of the spectrum, it'll usually frame what looks like good blocks for you. You can start narrowing it down from there.
In situations like this, you kind of almost have to play on your opponent's side, you know, try to figure out what they're going to do.
And also, then the last piece of this puzzle is what do things look like in the event that the last card of my opponent's hand is relevant? What if it's a removal spell? Am I blown out, or is it still not that bad for me?
There's a forest. That'll trigger the territorial Baloth. They can do a 6/6 now. Martell is quite clearly going to be attacking with some things here. It might just be that Baloth, though.
Yeah, I think he's a bit short right now of being able to make an alpha strike. Assuming Wiznitzer makes the straightforward block here and just double blocks with the 2 Dominator drones, I think next turn, Martell can make a big attack. But there's too many, you know, 2/3 in front of your 2/2 style blocks Wiznitzer has available to him this turn if Martell attacks with everything.
Looks like there's a double block. Dominator drones down, and now the follow-up is a Lifespring Druid. Pass the turn back over to Wiznitzer. His board is slowly being knocked down here. Curious what Aryeh does have in hand. Here's 4 mana, might be more than that. It's 5. Oracle of Dust, and Island. Pass the turn back. Martell reaching pretty quickly here. Looks like he's thinking about gearing up those flyers.
Yeah, in the first order of business he does. He moves all of his highest power creatures to the side. Do the leftovers kill Martell, assuming that he just blocks the biggest stuff. Or, excuse me, do the leftovers kill Wiznitzer?
Wiznitzer right now with 4 blockers. Didn't get a great look at Martell's draw step, but he might just turn all the creatures sideways and say, I dare you to have something.
I count 6 on the table here.
Yep.
Assuming that Wiznitzer just goes ahead and blocks the 4 biggest things. Now, if Wiznitzer goes and makes those blocks, that doesn't necessarily mean things are bad for Martell. Wiznitzer is going to lose some of his creatures inside of combat.
Now it's on Wiznitzer to figure out how the heck to block. Because everything's coming. You don't even know if Martell has a trick. If you have a trick, you probably can't beat it. So I don't know if you work that into the equation or not. So you're trying to figure out how can I block the most stuff, get the best inroads on the board, and maybe stabilize at 1 life and be able to play on.
Yeah, these blocks right now, they look good in terms of maintaining the board, but it leaves Wiznitzer exactly dead. He does not have the luxury of putting the Explorer in front of the Druid. I think he has to put it in front of the Stalwart. So instead of Martell losing a creature, now there's a bounce on the block. That makes the alpha strike for Martell next turn way more likely to work.
So you're going to see the dance. The players are going to move everything around.
This is how tight it is. If Wiznitzer is at 8 instead of 7, I'm not sure Martell can make this attack.
Yep.
He knows that he's got Wiznitzer bound up a little bit because his blocks are forced in a very specific way. He cannot afford to sacrifice any damage coming in to make inroads on the board.
Tom's ready to pass priority if Aryeh is.
And Tom knows this, barring a trick in hand, this block was the best thing Wiznitzer was going to be able to do. And it's not that bad for Martell. There's some trades, there's some bouncing off. Yeah, a little bit of Martell's board is swallowed up, but he's still at 5 attackers versus 3 blockers and Wiznitzer's at 1. Everything's lethal.
Yep.
And if Wiznitzer's last card in hand is just a land, he needs to draw something extremely good to get out of this.
Now, there are some good draws available, so we'll see what he does find. Yeah, he'll show you 2 cards that don't do very much, and that's going to do it. Tom Martell's going to win this match here over Aryeh Wiznitzer. 2-0. It'll be Martell versus Turtenwald in the finals here of Grand Prix Atlanta.